Thank you for being here. I'm going to call the November 4th meeting of the Commissioners Task Force in order. The meeting is being streamed on YouTube so the public may observe and listen. We want to welcome everybody, both on this Zoom call and those who are listening to us through the YouTube channel. At this point, we need a motion to approve today's agenda.
This is Bird, and I so move.
Bert makes that motion, and it is seconded by Mike Argabright. Thank you. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, motion carries unanimously, and we now need to have the approval. Are there any additions or corrections to the October 7 minutes? If not, a motion would be in order to approve the minutes of October 7.
Adam Thomas, so moved.
Thank you, Adam, and seconded by?
Other Adam.
Other Adam, okay, so the Adams. The Adams family is working with us today. Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, thank you. And we are 4 minutes early, Doug. So we'll expect you to remain in that capacity.
I will do my best. So welcome everyone. Starting out with ESSER 2 changes, just like always. We've got 7 districts that submitted plans. Their total value would now be 10.7 million. But in the overall scheme of things, it's only 162,000 more than what they've already been approved for. So not going to make much of a dent in what we have left. So we have Remington is using up the rest of their allocation. Quite a bit of this, or about half, I would say, is going towards getting their outdoor classroom up and running. Cheney, a little more money for salaries. Pratt just moving some money around for salaries. And then Paradise uses up the rest of their allocation for curriculum. Otis Bison, the rest of theirs for after-school tutoring, and then Dodge City moving some money around for retention pay. And Leavenworth then moving money for salaries, and you can see it's just a net change of $163,000. As we look at our cumulatives, like I said, not much change, 76% for those teaching and learnings. We still have about $3.8 million left of ESSER 2 funds that have not been earmarked.
And tell me about the time frame for that $3.8 million to be earmarked.
They can do that anytime. It just has to be encumbered by September 30th of 2023. So they've got 9 months, 10 months.
And is that concentrated in 1 or 2 school districts, or is that spread out?
I think I don't remember the exact figures I gave last month, but I think the majority, I think it was almost $3 million of that 4 that we had left was in 5 or 6 districts. And then the maybe 40 districts just had a few $1,000s left to take care of.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments concerning the information about ESSER 2? I'm not seeing any. So at this time, it would be appropriate for a motion to approve the ESSER 2 recommendation request. And since I can't see everybody, please identify yourself if you make a motion.
Mr. Porter, this is
Yes.
Bert, and I move for acceptance of the ESSER 2 changes.
Thank you, Bert. Is there a second to that motion?
Jason Wimbold, second.
Thank you, Jason. Any further discussion of the ESSER 2 change request? If not, all in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? That motion carries, and let's move on.
Sorry, I can't find my stop share button. Seem to have lost it. So moving on to ESSER 3s. We've got 16 districts that submitted ESSER III plans. $20 million in those 16 plans, and then we've got 6 districts that have submitted ESSER III change requests.
And Doug, you have stopped share now. You're not sharing anything currently.
I must
Yes,
have
we
found
can,
the button.
yeah, you found the button.
Am I
There
back?
you go. There
Okay.
you go.
All right, so 16 districts, $20 million in their requests, and then 6 districts with changes. Makes their total 98 million. It's a $20 million net change, and a lot of that is Kansas City. So as we look at where we're at, 158 plans approved by you and the state board, still have 2 of those conditional plans sitting out there. 16 plans under review today, 26 plans under KSDE review, and 86 that have not been submitted. If we go back to where we were at last month, we had 27 plans under review, so 16 of those are before you, which means 15 more were submitted between the last meeting and today. Just a breakdown of the districts. 14 of them fall with that under 3,000 students, 10 of them 500 students. As we look at the way the money's being spent, $27 million at their disposal, 20 million spoken for. Per district spending, Hamilton's at the low end, 123,000, Garden City's at the top end at 5.6 million. Expenses per student, Garden is the 625, and then Paradise is the 2,694. For the expenses, the teaching and learning works out to 79% approximately for this batch. And as we look at the cumulative, we're also sitting at about 79% for teaching and learning activities.
Go back to the slide, the previous slide, please. So there's, am I reading this correctly? There's still almost 208 million that has not been applied for yet.
Yes. And
And
we'll
and the
take that.
deadline is next month.
We hope to have everybody at least have their initial plans submitted by December 16th.
Okay, okay, moving ahead.
Mr. Chair, I think Adam Prophet had a question.
Okay, go ahead, Adam.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Chair, along the same lines, we might get to this later, but we talked last month about maybe getting a list of the schools and how much assigned to each school of the remaining that had not yet been turned in. Did that come and I missed it, or is it not yet come?
I thought we sent that out like the following week.
Okay, it's very, very possible I missed it. So
We'll make sure, Adam, that you get that again as soon as this is over.
thank you.
Jamie, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. The December 16th date for ESSER III. Can you give some explanation on how that was set? A lot of school districts just heard about that this week and wondered where that came from. Is it backing into some date from the federal government or something along those lines, or how that gets set?
Just as we were looking at that, everything needs to be encumbered by 2024, September 30th of 2024. If you have a big project and you're planning on using it for HVAC or something like that, you really need to get those plans in. So we were wanting to push people to at least have something submitted and get the paperwork rolling so that they would have time to get that done. We thought that if we had everything in by December, hopefully we would have everything approved and through by March so that at least we'd have an initial submission of all plans by March that had gone before you and the state board. It's not a hard timeline, but it just to kind of get people to moving a little bit and not wait until the last minute.
All right, appreciate it. I really think there's been plenty of time. I just had that question posed, and I want to be able to answer it from your
And
perspective. Appreciate that.
I talked to my team, and we did send notice out a couple of weeks ago after the last task force meeting in the KSDE newsletter about that date being set. So it has been published. And I believe Dr. Watson mentioned it yesterday in his noon meeting. And so
And Doug, I also know we have a staff member that's meeting through a couple service centers next week with a lot of the districts in 2 different parts of the state over the next couple weeks with districts that have not submitted, just to help them out with questions and concerns they have. So we're also doing that for districts now as well.
Yeah, and we set that, and then the board approved it last month, Jamie. And basically it's try to keep everybody to make sure that they have plenty of time to get everything spent before the deadline. My chat thing isn't working, so I think I saw something from Brenda and then Frank, and then I can't tell who else. I can see I have 4 chat messages, but I can't read who they are. So let's start with Brenda and then Frank, and then somebody else. Anybody else in that group will just have to identify themselves and ask the question.
Thank you, Jim. Randy just posted the comment. I was going to ask if we couldn't get that list that Adam asked for sent to everyone again, just to refresh our memories, because it would be good to know who has, a significant amount of money still sitting there that hasn't been spent, even if they're in the process. It's just good information to have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Frank?
Yeah, I was just trying to make sure that I understood correctly that the December 16th deadline is for the first application. The 208 million would represent districts that also have their applications in and approved, just haven't put in expenditures for all of the funds. So if you have it already approved but haven't allocated all of the funds, that doesn't have to be done by December 16th. Is that correct?
that's correct. You can still make changes going forward to use up the rest of what's left, but at least if we have an initial submission, we know that people are starting to make plans or have a plan for how they're going to use it.
Well, it's also important because to do the initial application correctly can take months. So they will need to get going.
Okay, and I still can't see the chat, but I see there are more questions. So somebody will, if you ask to ask a question, identify yourself and go ahead.
Michaela just said that she would send the list out immediately. And Tate said we can get an updated list that doesn't include those 15 new ones that came in.
Okay, are there any questions from any member of the task force?
I think what Tate also said, Jim, is that maybe each month we can just have an updated list that you can see each month of who's still remaining and how much money's still available.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. Anything else? I'm sorry, but I've got some kind of technical problem here, so I can't see the chat. So, and like most technical issues that I have, it's probably my fault. Let's move ahead.
Okay, so the ESSER 3 changes, Marmaton Valley, a little extra money for an after-school program. Brewster uses up the rest of their allocation on an HVAC project. Colby's using the rest of theirs up. You see that single audit funds, districts don't have to do single audits until they pass a certain threshold of federal money. And there's a lot of districts that have never had to do this before because they've never had this much money. So it's a new expense for them. So that's what that is referring to. And it is allowable to use these funds to pay for that. Pratt using a little extra money for some software. Gary County's using up the rest of their, or not quite the rest of theirs, for retention pay and after-school tutoring. And then Kansas City's using up the rest of their allocation for retention pay and technology. So if we consider the changes, then it knocks another $20 million off that amount that was left. So that puts us down to $187 million not earmarked, but we are still setting at about 79% for the gold bars, the teaching and learning.
Any further questions? If not, is this the time to vote for approval, I believe? So a motion would be in order to approve the ESSER 3 recommendations.
Mr. Chair, this is Melissa. Do you want the slate of ESSER 3 and the slate of changes voted on separately or in one motion?
We'll do it in one motion. I kind of messed up a couple of months ago and did that separately, but that really wasn't necessary. So.
Okay, well, so moved.
Is there a second to that motion? Mike Augubright seconds that motion. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much. And we will see you, I believe it's December the 9th. Put that on your calendar as the highlight of your December activities, second only to Christmas time. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. And based on what it is here, and you know, it's always sunny and 70 degrees in Fredonia, but today it's raining. So try to stay dry. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Chair.